Hello everyone, welcome back to Crimson Gray, Dusk and Dawn. Let's go ahead and continue. This time I'm going to focus on the good ending. And yeah. I've already went ahead and chosen the good stopping points so I can start choosing the correct decisions that will get us married. The idea of participating wasn't unpleasant, but it would be so much calmer and more wonderful alone at home. Lizzie looked up, smiled, and made her decision. Okay. So we gotta take John's idea of helping him. Your idea sounded fun, John. Let's do that. Seriously? That stuff is heavy. You're going to end up making him do all the work. I can provide moral support. The girl rolled her eyes at them, but didn't try to interfere any further. After signing up and getting the appropriate key, that led Lizzie and John to head to the supply room he'd referenced. In the old art building, they headed down one of the lesser used hallways. Her arm still linked with his. Being alone together in a place like this brought lovely ideas to mind. But since they were helping a cause that mattered to him, Lizzie restrained herself. Before too long, they reached the room, which John unlocked. The room inside was reasonably large, but filled with years of ancient desks, cabinets, and other furniture, not to mention a host of random boxes. Nobody wanted this job because these old cabinets are ridiculously heavy. I'm guessing that won't be a problem, though. Lizzie stepped over to one of them and pressed her hand against the side, tipping it experimentally. The metal groaned and dust fell from the cabinet, but didn't feel particularly heavy. There's nobody watching, right? Nah, people don't usually come here. We're only using it because most of the real meeting rooms are booked that night. Then I'll take care of it, no problem. They have a recycling guy coming for the metal, so we just need to take them out back. Nodding, Lizzie moved to the cabinet that was the most in the way of the others and picked it up without difficulty. A box that had been set up on top of it tilted to the side and John snagged it before it could fall. Smiling thanks at him, Lizzie carried the cabinet out the door he had referenced and left it at the edge of the back lot. Being made of metal, it was indeed heavier than average, but not really a challenge for her strength. Goddamn, Lizzie, you are super strong. Totally forgot about that. They soon found a good rhythm working together, which made Lizzie glow inside. She handled all the heaviest furniture while John organized the rest and cleared off boxes and other materials that would get in her way. Her strength hadn't been something that she'd ever given much thought when she was growing up. First something to be hidden to avoid attention, then an advantage to be cultivated. It had never been something that brought her any joy. That had changed the day she had saved him from falling. Since then, she had realized that she could use it to protect him. There had really only been a few brief moments where she had used her strength to its full potential, but she was just as happy for simple things like this as well. The two of them, working to move so many things, it reminded her of when they'd moved into their apartment together, and that made her imagine them moving into an actual home of her own, which was a wonderful thought. She would be overjoyed for that, no matter the circumstances, but it would be most wonderful if it happened after they were married. The tradition seemed meaningless to her in isolation, but the idea of doing it with John. Such thoughts carried Lizzie happily through the rest of their work, made her frequently smile over at John, and he smiled back, seeming much lighter than she had seen from him in recent days. Lizzie didn't even mind that they were preparing for Francesca to come to speak. Working toward it together with him, it didn't seem like such a bad thing after all. John, can you help me with these? The desks are too long for one person to carry, not without damaging something. Oh, so that's why we've been skipping them. Sure, I'll try. He acted as though he might not be able to help. But of course, he came to his sister. And it really was true that she needed his help. She wouldn't have wanted him to feel condescended to. As strong as she was, there was just no good way to carry a desk alone. Between the two of them, it was no trouble at all to move the desk and finish cleaning the room. Plus, she got to watch him on the other side of the desk. He was used to her gaze and didn't mind it, though he needed to focus on their path more than she did to avoid running into things. When at last they finished, the room was still dusty and stuffy, but at least it was empty. More time had passed than she had expected. John didn't seem as surprised, but she was glad to see the slight smile on his face. It's not much, but we did our part to help. Isn't a problem for you, was it? Not at all, John. Thanks for thinking of this. Having said that, I'm definitely ready to head home. Me too. Though they were both a little dusty, Lizzie didn't hesitate to link her arm with his and lean against him as they walked home. Getting cleaned up together might be fun. When her schedule went unusually well, Lizzie found herself actually somewhat troubled. She had no reading for classes, shopping had gone quickly, and nothing had slowed her down. That meant that she had a surprising amount of extra time. On the one night, John needed to work late at the library. For a little while, she busied herself tidying up the house and cleaning her knives. But she found herself anxious. It was no serious premonition, just an uncomfortable feeling. She was glad to have him in her mind, and she was sure she would soon find his song again. But she also wanted him in the flesh. She spent a while writing in her notebook, many of its pages how heavy with ink. Though she wasn't a very good artist, she found it soothing to draw John's face. Perhaps she would be something to take up in the future. But that couldn't hold her attention for long. This was a bad night to be home alone. After chewing on one knuckle for a while, Lizzie decided she should just go visit John at the library. Okay, so this is a portion we read already, so I'm going to use the skip feature for a little bit. New dialogue. Lizzie trusted completely that whatever he was working on was important, but she could also see that he was getting tired. John always tried to push himself too far, letting his energy run down and often leading him to become depressed again. Smiling to herself, Lizzie straightened. The library was empty. Maybe he needed something a little different. Have some fun. Lizzie smiled and approached him, making sure to make enough noise from the hear. She wished that she was wearing something sexier than sweatpants and a t-shirt, but it would be fine. John looked up and smiled. Oh, glad to see you. Nothing to do at home either, huh? I did everything already. You don't seem too busy either. She shifted her posture, leaning on his desk and arching her back toward him strategically. Her smile shifted from pure happiness to pure desire. The effect was not lost on him. Wow, you look great. But I am supposed to be working right now. You're supposed to help people who come into the library, right? I'm the only one who needs something right now. They cleaned up and pulled their clothes back on in a hurry, then headed back to the main desk. Anyone who saw them, bodies flushed, clothes askew, would have known exactly what they had done, and that fact made Lizzie immensely happy. There was no one there, of course. The library was every bit as empty as it had been before. She had expected John to look relieved, but he actually didn't seem to care, just smiling at her. Do you want to stick around? I wasn't getting much done anyway. Sure. She spent the rest of his shift alongside him, occasionally reading but often just leaning against him and breathing his scent. She could still smell what they had done, and it was a wonderful reminder. Also wonderful was that the tension seemed to have eased from him. Being together had been exactly what he needed, making Lizzie doubly glad that she had given in. When the shift finally ended, John locked up and then they headed home together. As they walked, Lizzie was surprised to feel his hand slide down from her waist, caressing her curves. Maybe they weren't done after all. Lizzie eagerly pulled him home faster. Alright, so dialogue we read already, so let's go ahead and skip this. Oh, just one sentence. Since their time together cleaning out the room had gone well, they kept participating together. It hadn't all been as much fun as that, but Lizzie didn't mind the time preparing and John seemed positively engaged by all of it. Same text. Skip ahead for a bit. Oh, I haven't been pushing you too much, have I? It was so much fun when we worked together before, though. No, I didn't mean that at all. There's just so much to do. I know you want to help, but you know your limits, right? You can't help others if you're not okay. You're right. Thanks, Lizzie. Lizzie thought that their conversation had gone well, but she was plagued by doubt. She hadn't noticed this depression incoming, hadn't been able to prevent it. She began going over every interaction in minute detail, wondering where she had neglected something. Lizzie realized that she needed to get out of her head. If she let herself keep thinking that way, she would end up spending the evening developing elaborate plans to kill someone or kidnap John to safety. She needed to do something. But what? Be quietly supportive. Seen this text before. Skip ahead to a new item. Alright, let's see. Don't kill her yet. Then this is the part where that girl insults us on our notebook. We end the conversation until John... all about it. Text. Something new. Okay. I'm always here for you, Lizzie. As she regained clarity, she realized that she had added stress to his life by doing this. Though she berated herself for it, Lizzie knew that he didn't mind helping her in this way. Okay. Same text. Let's go ahead to a new one. Let's see. We explain the thoughts in the notebook. And we skip that. New text. Only then did Lizzie realize that she had her knife in hand. She had a strong instinct to shield John, defend him from the girl. She managed to restrain herself and set the knife aside, a few inches out of reach. You okay, Lizzie? I will be fine, but we need to keep watching. Reflecting on her reactions, Lizzie scooted up against John and focused on the broadcast. Okay, so that is the massacre. We skip some more text. I don't think this will change anything. She was surprised by John's bleak tone, but when she looked over to him, she saw that his eyes were calm. Sometimes he became too depressed and saw the world as darker than it really was. At other times, his vision seemed clearer than many others. We know what really happened, but will the public make the connection? Looks like Koitek is already on top of things. They might even use this as an argument for why their drugs are needed more, to stop murders like this. Oh, you may be right, but... You saw that image where she looked at the camera? It's going to be all over the news, I guarantee it. She'll become the new face of any social problem people want to blame on younger generations. Maybe things will take a positive turn from there, but I doubt it. Oh, John. I hope it doesn't go that way, but I'm inclined to believe you. They leaned again to one another for a while, John touching his face to her hair and breathing in slowly. Alright, scene text, one sentence. As she calmed down, Lizzie was able to admit that any real threat would likely be slower and social. Her calm also let her notice John's mood more precisely. It seemed like John was fine, though his eyes are very serious. He was always more prone to sadness, and she imagined his thoughts were grim, but they didn't seem to be crushing them. They sat there, both somewhat tense, until John glanced over at her with a slight grin. Your murderous laughter was much cuter. Well, John, ain't that sweet? Aww. Lizzie threw herself into his arms, laughing. It had occurred to her to compare herself to the other girl, but John's words completely wiped out such thoughts. He was joking, but the fact that he was able to joke so easily with her was a wonderful thing. Besides, there was probably a bit of truth in there too. She was better than that awful girl. Okay, same text, skip ahead, forget about it for now. And skip ahead to red text. Though part of her desperately wanted more information, she reminded herself that what she had said was true. This incident wasn't about them. She would learn more in time. Alright, scene text, skip ahead. She made her way across campus at speed toward the lab, and to her surprise, she wasn't anxious. John was having fun. He would be happy to see her, and things would be fine. There was no threat. Not here. Alright, the computer lab where they're playing video games. You skip ahead. Hi, you slutty man. Let's see. Ask John about it. This is probably about the funding for the wedding he's hiding. Skip ahead. John took a deep breath, but his eyes were still calm. Lizzie nestled against him to offer comfort, but she knew that they couldn't change the facts of the situation. Sounds like they're reducing the requirements to move drugs through testing, including on younger populations. Another channel had Kelsey on as a guest earlier, and she was saying it's basically the opposite of what she wanted for the FDCA. Is that what you were about to say earlier? Alright, so that's that. Skip ahead a little bit more. That at least got a slight smile from him, but the situation was obviously quite serious. Could be worse. It's not like society is going to change overnight. After all, the Warnos incident is still on everyone's mind. They'll move on eventually. Does this change what you want to do? Should we do something different? No. I think we have to keep going as we have. Finish college. Then we can build our life together. He reached out to take her hand and she gripped it back hard. I think I've seen enough for now. I don't know. I feel like I need to keep watching, but at this point it's just depressing me. I'll watch for you. You rest, John. I'll tell you if anything important happens. You sure? I don't want to make you shoulder either. No, I'm happy to. The news might be bad, but I don't mind if I'm helping you feel better. Then I will take you up on that. Thanks, Lizzie. She helped tuck him into bed, kissed his forehead, and then headed back to watch late into the night. By the next morning, Lizzie was feeling discouraged. Not just about the situation, but about the reactions to it. Everyone was so stupid. There were protests in support of the law and protests against it. More protests that didn't seem clear on what they wanted to change. There was utter chaos, and yet the direction of all of it seemed to be downward. There was so much attention on everything, so little bit rational. According to reports, some schools had even expelled students based on the idea that they might be a threat, even though they had no true grounds to do so. Lawsuits had already begun. All of it seemed far away from their home and their life together, yet loomed high and cast a shadow over her. She was grateful when she heard John finally getting up. He came out and gave her a quick kiss before sitting down beside her. She explained the basics of everything that had been reported, and putting it into words made things seem slightly more manageable, but it was still far from pleasant. I should probably save. John, do you think we need to call it the wedding? He looked into her eyes seriously for a long time, not judging, just understanding. Eventually he spoke quietly. Would you prefer that? No, I'm just... something might happen. I don't think there's any real risk, but I don't want you to be unhappy, Lizzie. I want our wedding day to be something you can remember forever. So if now is a bad time, I think it would be better to do it. To prove that Koitek doesn't dominate our lives anymore. And it would make me happy, John. So happy. She stared into his eyes and realized that she was certain. She wanted nothing more than to spend the rest of her life with him. But she was afraid that someone would take him away somehow, afraid of so many things. Will you tell me everything will be alright, John? I can't promise that, but I don't think there's any serious chance of something going wrong. She smiled fondly through the moist eyes and nestled closer against him. I'm glad you said that. You don't offer any false hope. I don't want you to be sad, but I'm glad you never try to force things to be happy. Thank you. Please convince me, John. Tell me about everything and why we can have our wedding and I don't need to be afraid. John held her and began to speak, not making any grand promises, but just going over the situation. It all seemed so much clearer when he said it compared to the chaos of possibilities within her mind. Yes, things weren't perfect. Yes, there would be problems in their future, but with him by her side, Lizzie could hope that things would turn out well. All she needed to do was... Oh, shit, there's a lowercase h. Why is this the correct choice, though? Lizzie held her John and he held her. They would always have each other, finding peace again. Lizzie gradually fell asleep in his arms. At long last, it was time for their special day. After all their preparation, it somehow felt simultaneously as it could be happening already, and as if she had been waiting forever. Soon they would belong to each other in another way. Most of her concerns about something happening to somehow interrupt the wedding had faded away, though obviously she had brought her axe. With John's calmness balancing her, she felt as though things would be fine. Arriving at the location they picked out made it all seem so much more real. She'd seen the pictures, but actually standing on the grounds was an entirely different experience. The garden there at the edge of town did a lot of weddings. It was certainly beautiful. High hedge walls made the garden seem separate from the rest of the world, and even the offices were picturesque. Though Lizzie wanted to go see the actual area where they would be married first, apparently things were still being rearranged following a wedding before them. Instead, they headed into the offices to do a little paperwork, which Lizzie got out of the way as fast as possible to focus on what mattered. After that, they had to depart, going in separate directions to get dressed. Lizzie held her dress tightly as she was directed to one of the side rooms. She had tried it on a few times, but John had actually never seen her wearing it. "No dawdling, get in here." An irritatingly young woman gestured for Lizzie to come. At first, Lizzie was angry about her presence, but she knew that it wasn't easy to get everything on her dress done properly on her own. Reluctantly accepting the necessity, Lizzie got fully dressed. Seeing herself in the mirror, she was quite pleased with the effect. The positive feelings were only slightly dampened by the assistant making comments about her. They were compliments, but Lizzie didn't care about her. She only wanted compliments from John. Unfortunately, the time it took for her to put on her dress wasn't long enough for the garden to be ready. The assistant left, leaving Lizzie to pace idly. She considered getting her out her axe to see how she would look at it. She had a feeling that she would like the look. Hopefully John would like it too. That brought to mind naughty ideas that made Lizzie giggle to herself. Sooner than she had expected, the assistant returned. "Now?" "Not yet. Sorry." "And how much longer will it be?" "Sorry, the previous ceremony went long. Just as soon as everything is cleaned up, you'll be able to step right in." "I see. I'll go talk to John then." "What? You can't let him see you before the wedding?" Lizzie considered that tradition for a moment and decided that it was dumb, but the other women seemed very serious about it, as if such superstitions made all the difference. "Why not?" "It's bad luck. You don't want to get your married life started off on the wrong foot, do you?" Lizzie paused, considering all the factors in her mind, then gave the woman a flat smile. "I'm going to go for a walk in the garden then." "Don't get close to any of the workers." Ignoring her, Lizzie headed out. The grounds really were pleasant. She was glad they picked this location, but her purpose was not to go for a walk. Once she got out of eyesight, Lizzie circled back and made her way around the main building. Before they'd been split up, she'd obviously known exactly where they'd taken John to wait. Comparing it to the map she looked up of the building, she could easily determine where his room met the outside wall. She didn't see anyone until she saw him through the window. John was alone, sitting in a room much like hers. Though he looked mostly calm, she could see the tension in his hands as he clasped them together. No doubt he was nervous about this too, and given her fears about this day, Lizzie had probably added to them. But she planned to reverse that trend very soon. Just not quite yet. Instead, she stayed outside the window staring at him just like she used to. The next time she'd be staring at her husband. Lizzie was sure that her smile had become something that was not comforting the most, but it didn't matter. She knocked on the glass and John jumped a little, whirling to look at her. But when he saw her, he immediately smiled. After checking the window bit, he managed to open it. "Everything okay, Lizzie?" Everything's fine. There's just an awful woman saying boring things and I got tired of it. Before he could object, she pulled herself to the window. Normally, it would have been effortless, but the dress made things a little more difficult. Fortunately, John offered her his hand and she was able to get in somewhat gracefully. They say it's bad luck to see the bride before the wedding. She walked past him and locked the door to the room. But I think that only applies to normal people. Brushing past him again, Lizzie lowered the blinds to cover the window completely and turned to him with a smile. Would you like to see the bride? Really? Now? He glanced over his shoulder to the door, as if she hadn't just locked it, but he was smiling. After a moment, he turned back to her. You're beautiful, Lizzie. Stay here, I don't think I'll be able to help myself. She grabbed the front of his suit and pulled into her. I don't want you to. As glorious as that felt, as a little awkward immediately afterward as they struggled to right their clothes and remember any sign of what had happened. They both helped the other adjust and smiled again. That was a lot better than just waiting. Wasn't it? Then, I'll see you soon, won't I? Like surprised. Lizzie climbed back out the window, made sure her dress was still in decent shape, then headed back to her room. The assistant grumbled when she saw a few things askew, but Lizzie just smiled at her demurely and said that she had a nice walk. In a few minutes, everything was fixed and the preparations were finally done. The wedding was so soon, yet Lizzie wasn't nervous anymore. It was finally time. Lizzie stepped from the door and into the back garden, where there was a pathway with short grass lined with flowers. Normally there would be chairs full with guests, but in their case it was empty. She let her eyes wander forward, wanting to drink it all in before she fully indulged. At the end of the pathway is an archway woven with white roses. The scene wasn't marred by many people, only a pastor and a photographer, necessary evils, and then there's John, completing the image. It was the first time she had seen him in the suit, and he looked good. More importantly, the moment he saw her eyes were filled with a love that nearly broke her heart. It took all her self-control not to run down the walkway toward him. She made herself walk slowly, savoring the moments until she finally drew beside him. They stood in front of the pastor, but she barely saw the other man. They had spent a long time talking about their vows, but in the end they had gone with none. There was nothing they could say now that they would match everything they had already promised one another. Besides, she doubted the pastor would appreciate her saying how many people she would happily murder for John's sake. The ceremony simplified, it didn't take long. She ignored the words buzzing in the back of her mind, just staring at John until she heard the words that mattered. Do you, John Nichols, take Lizzie Doss to be your lawfully wedded wife? I do. Do you, Lizzie Doss, take John Nichols to be your lawfully wedded husband? I do. Before the pastor could say anything about kissing the bride, Lizzie threw herself at John, wrapping her arms around his neck and kissing him fiercely. In that moment, everything fell away except the two of them. Nothing else mattered. She pulled back just slightly, staring into his eyes. She saw the past pain and sorrow there, yes, but she also saw hope and determination. She saw a love that matched her own. When they moved apart, she took his arm for the sake of the pictures, but those no longer mattered. When planning the wedding, Lizzie had thought capturing this moment would be an important part of the experience. Now she saw that it didn't matter at all. A picture could never compare to the fact that she would always have this moment. Always have him. The H's are lowercase. She's not in that dangerous thought now. I am so proud of Lizzie. Forever. Alright, that was the true ending for Crimson Grey, Dusk, and Dawn. Surely there's also the other endings, but if you want to see those for yourself, I do recommend getting the game for yourself and giving it a try. And if you enjoyed this video, leave a like, comment what you think so far, and if you want to watch any of the previous videos, I will put the playlist down below. If you want to watch other visual novels, please check my channel down below. Thank you, and take care.